America's Heartland is made possible by
They make up a small part of our population, but have a huge impact on our lives. They take business risks few others would tolerate, all on our behalf. They're American farmers who feed, fuel, and clothe the world. Monsanto would like to recognize them for all they do for the rest of us. Because ultimately, our success and everyone else's depends on theirs.
and by the American Farm Bureau Federation, the voice of agriculture.
Hi, I'm Jason Schultz. Coming up, we'll introduce you to a Florida man who uses his photographer's eye to capture the beauty of his ranch.
I'm Akiba Howard. When you're talking citrus, California is king when it comes to navel oranges. Coming up, we'll visit the groves and find out exactly how this sweet treat makes its way from the trees to your table.
Hi, I'm Yolanda Vasquez. Specialty cheeses continue to grow in popularity in this country. They're a favorite amongst consumers looking for something different in their diet. And for one Tennessee farm family, that interest has sparked a whole new career. It's coming up on America's Heartland.
You can see it in the eyes of every woman and man in America's heartland, living close to the land. There's a love for the country and a pride in the brand in America's heartland, living close to the land.
Across the United States, you'll find sprawling cattle ranches where the environment has been preserved and wildlife is flourishing. And that's the case at the Adams Ranch in Central Florida, where the owner, Bud Adams, has found an interesting way to preserve his family's legacy. It's sunup and saddle up on this early spring morning. The cowboys of Adams Ranch are ready for another roundup.
Morning. What do you got?
These are Florida cowboys. No vast open plains of the American West here. This range is dotted with palm trees, swampy ponds, and thickets of grasses and trees. And here at Adams Ranch near Fort Pierce, the wildlife and the 50,000 acres of preserved landscape make for a picture-perfect scene. A scene not lost on the ranch's owner, Bud Adams. Visit the ranch and you'll likely find him with a camera in his hand.
I'm out here checking on the cattle. To see that they have water, grass, and mineral. And invariably you see a lot of interesting things. You know, I was given an Argus 35mm camera in 1936, I think.
It's a few years ago.
That's a long time.
Over the decades, Bud's captured hundreds of images of life on the ranch.
Well, I started working here 10 years old, so this is the 72nd year I've worked here. Back in those days, we had cross-state cattle drives, and we would have a bedroll and sleep on the ground. It was a hard life, but it was a good life.
His father bought this land in 1937. 10 years later, they had 1,600 head of cattle. Now it's 10,000. And throughout the years, Bud Adams has been there to create a visual record, first on film and now with his digital camera. Bud's photos have ended up in books and various publications. Although you're a photographer and you're pretty good at it, you see yourself as a cattle rancher, right? That's your bailiwick.
I raise cattle. I'm a cowman.
That's your passion.
Oh, yeah.
That passion carries on to the next generation of the Adams family. Bud's sons manage various areas of the ranching operation.
And these boys, they start when they're 10 or 11 years old, and now they're in their mid-20s. Why, they're as good as anybody.
You said these boys. I think I might have seen a girl out there too this morning, right?
Yes, yes, we're equal opportunity.
Bud points out that the beautiful ecology here is no accident. It's a balance of nature that has been managed by his family for decades.
I'm sure you've had developers knocking on your door here for to put some homes here.
That is a tremendous problem. With higher land values and a growing population, it will be very difficult to pass this on to the next generation.
What Bud captures here through his lens are more than pretty pictures. He's documenting a way of life and a heritage that has roots deeper than the palm trees that grow on this sandy soil.
We understand that this is a holistic enterprise and that we have to consider the grass, the trees, the cattle, the wildlife, the water, and our climate. The important part of this is your animal agriculture provides a sustainable program.
Florida ranchers raise more than 400,000 head of cattle each year, but the Sunshine State was once home to more exotic animals. 10,000 years ago, saber-toothed cats, giant armadillos, and the American camel called Florida home.
We've taken you to a wide variety of farms and ranches here on America's Heartland, but this stop is just a little different. That's because the work here is being done by inmates at an Ohio correctional facility.
This is a new experience for Robert Crawford, an inmate at the Mansfield Correctional Institution. Robert is learning new skills on the Mancy Beef Farm.
I didn't grow up on a farm. I grew up in a little rural area, but I never worked on a farm or ever been on a farm. Get over there.
The farm's been here since 1886. The main purpose is to supply food for the 30 other prison facilities, but also it's an opportunity to teach the inmates how to do a good job, how to show up to work on time. That's what we try and do.
Second one's 87.
The farm program here is one of 10 such correctional operations in the Buckeye State. In all, the facilities will farm close to 11,000 acres.
We usually run about 300 plus animals on the feed lot, and we farm about 1,500 acres.
The Mansfield facility grows corn, soybeans, wheat, and hay. They also grow vegetables for area hunger programs. Like any other farm, the day starts early here. Inmates are up and out, tending to the livestock.
We try to run them out to the field so they can find a new place to graze. Now everybody's looking for their calves.
Some 50 inmates will work the pens and fields each day, supervised by 5 staff members.
They'll come out around 7:30 in the morning. If it's in the spring like now, calving time, they'll come down to the barns to check for newborn calves and move the cows and the newborns to the nursery barn to get tagged.
Yep, she said, that's my baby. They don't mind the shots too much. It's we also got to tattoo them and tag them. Give them an electric identification monitor here.
What is it that you enjoy most about being part of this program?
I've always been around. I've always liked animals and being outside. I've always been an outdoors person. So, and I was when I was little. I was raised for a few years on a farm, and brings back memories.
Come on, youngster.
they'll find a niche out here, whether it's working with the cattle or working in the garden or operating tractors and equipment.
It's a great opportunity for guys to be able to get used to getting up in the morning and doing a hard day's work, so when we get out of prison, we'll, you know, stay in tune with being able to work, have good work ethics. Come on, go find Mom. Come on.
We try and teach the inmates to give back to society, the community, and this is an opportunity that they can do something to give back.
I definitely respect the farmers, especially the beef guys. I respect what they go through every day, because it's a sun up to sundown job, that's for sure.
Correctional farms are popular in a number of states. Many date back to the early 20th century. Some other countries, like Great Britain, operated prison farms in the 1800s.
I'm Akiba Howard. If your diet is rich in fruits and vegetables, then you've already got these bright, sweet treats in your kitchen. From tree to table, bringing California citrus to market.
I'm Yolanda Vasquez. Still ahead, if you like farmstead cheeses, you'll want to meet a Tennessee couple for whom cheese sparked a whole new career.
When you're in the produce section, do you like to pick up a cucumber to slice up in your salad? They are pretty tasty, but listen to this. More than half of the cucumbers grown in the U.S. actually end up right here as pickles. You got your hot and spicy, your dill, your kosher, German, lots of choices. And in fact, almost any food can be pickled. But have you ever thought about what makes a pickle a pickle?
The average American consumes about 9 pounds of pickles every year. Most grocery stores have whole rows of pickled choices. The cukes for all those pickles are grown in more than a dozen states, but Michigan, North Carolina, and Texas farmers have carved out a niche for themselves, growing smaller, thinner-skinned cucumbers that more easily absorb pickling brine and end up in all those jars. All those cukes heading for the jar first get a bath and then get soaked in a pickling brine. There are various types of brine: salt or vinegar, sugar, and spices. Each brine gives the cucumbers different textures and flavors. Pickle packing production lines use various techniques to make pickles. Fresh pack is where the cucumbers are quickly cooked, cooled, packed, and sealed. These crisp pickles can have a shelf life of a year to 18 months. Refrigerated pickles are processed entirely under refrigeration. Their shelf life is shorter, about 8 months. And processed pickles fully cure for 1 to 3 months in big tanks before being put into containers. These sharply flavored pickles have a suggested shelf life of up to 24 months.
Well, whether you like your pickles on top of a burger, off the shelf, or straight out of the jar, here's some tasty news. The average dill actually only has 15 calories of fat-free goodness, and they're a rich source of vitamin A, C, and iron. So think about that the next time you crunch into one of these or take a jar of pickles off the shelf.
Oranges are a popular pick amongst nutrition-savvy consumers. They're high in vitamin C and a very good source for antioxidants. Now, Florida and California are the big players in the orange game. Florida for their juice oranges and California for these guys, the navel orange that you peel and eat. And it's that peel and eat popularity that's been very important for one California farm family for nearly a century.
Doesn't show any frost damage though on the leaves. No.
For Lee Bailey and his brother Harvey, citrus has been the centerpiece of family life since their grandfather settled here on the east side of California's San Joaquin Valley back in 1913.
They had hopes. The grandfather was able to drill a well and plant some trees. I'm third generation, my sons are the fourth generation.
Today, the Bailey brothers own or manage more than 2,500 acres and 125,000 citrus trees. From picking to packing, everyone in the family gets involved. Their granddad started the farm, but it was Lee and Harvey's dad who really grew the business.
He worked the fields till he was in his 80s, and he liked to see things done, liked to see things done right. And I think he'd be proud of us.
The Bailey brothers grow both Valencia and navel oranges. Valencia is mostly for juice, navels for the fresh fruit market. California navels make up some 80% of that peel and eat market. shipped across the country and overseas.
Here's a piece of navel that is ripe and mature.
Human hands and machines here turn out more than 60 million pounds of citrus each year. This machine scans each orange electronically and sorts it by size. Too small? Slight blemishes? It's destined for the juice factory. Consumers these days have come to expect a product that's near perfect in appearance and flavor.
What we're looking at here is a couple of first grade fruit. This fruit is going to Korea. You'll notice there's no blemishes. There's a nice full bin of good fruit.
Besides oranges, the Baileys grow other citrus, including lemons. But lemons are even more sensitive to frost than oranges. That means the Baileys are sometimes up all night with wind machines and sprayers that keep the fruit from freezing.
I don't think the general public realizes how much work that have to be done processing and growing and getting the transportation to get the product to the market.
Like any agricultural enterprise, there are elements of uncertainty. A citrus greening disease now seen in Florida groves has made its first ominous appearance in California. Cold weather and labor shortages can affect an entire season. And California water issues, shortages and drought, impact agriculture across the Golden State.
You got to have the water. If you want crops, you got to have water. And if you want food, you got to have water. Without water, we aren't going to be farming.
Still, the Baileys, their wives and children will tell you it's a pretty good life. Working the land is part of this family's legacy, looking ahead to the next crop and the next generation.
I feel proud that my grandfather established this, and my dad and my brothers and I. It's been a family tradition.
It's nice just to be out doing a job and getting that job done. And so hopefully we can continue on.
Navel orange trees came to California from Brazil in the late 1800s. Because they're seedless, every new navel orange tree starts as a graft from an existing tree.
Hello, I'm Paul Robbins, and here's something you may not have known about agriculture. Do you like popcorn? Do you like sweet corn like this? Or maybe those colorful ears of corn you decorate your home with in the fall around Thanksgiving? Maybe just the little tiny ears on the salad bar. Corn is king when it comes to agriculture in America, but in terms of plants as food, well, corn actually came fairly late to the party. That's because while corn is a common sight on farms around the world today, it was a brand new discovery some 7,000 years ago. People living in central Mexico took a wild grass plant called teosinte and started cultivating it. From there, corn, by now it was called maize, was on the move. It spread north to the American Southwest and as far south as Peru. And when Columbus showed up in 1492, he discovered the New World and he discovered corn. But not all corn is the same. Flint corn is that colorful stuff you see around Thanksgiving. Dent corn, also called field corn, is used for livestock feed, various foods and industrial products, including ethanol. Sweet corn gets its name from its high sugar content, and its kernels are a little softer so you can nibble it off the cob. And popcorn has a starchy center and a hard shell. Heat it up, and the moisture inside pops the shell and cooks the starchy stuff into those white puffy kernels. Great with butter. And here's a fact for you. Some 60 years ago, popcorn became the first food that was ever successfully microwaved. Yeah, scientists were working on the microwave oven. They tried some popcorn, it popped, and a whole new appliance was born. Since then, no question, popcorn has become one of the most popular snack foods in the world. Americans alone eat more than 18 billion quarts every year.
Sometimes life takes an interesting and unexpected turn. It certainly did for the couple you're about to meet. That's because an unusual birthday gift took these folks down a Tennessee country road.
Sometimes
'cause this old farm seems like a long-lost friend.
Jim Tanner had no idea how prescient the words to this song would be until he and his wife, Gail,
There we go. There we go.
packed up everything they owned, including nearly a dozen goats, and moved from the hustle and bustle of Northern California to the quiet solitude of Middle Tennessee. Goats have been a part of Gail's life after receiving one as a birthday present in her 20s.
We knew the lifestyle that we had with the goats and such was going to start to be more and more limited, so it was time to go.
It also came at a time when the Tanners were getting serious about breeding goats and creating an agricultural business. So they chose this remote spot with more than 100 acres of pastures, woods, and a babbling brook to build Bonnie Blue Farm.
We owned the property for about 4 years before we moved here. So during those 4 years, we would come back periodically and work on this and that and the other thing. And it was kind of like our vacation. Typically, we came back at Christmas time.
So when the retired couple arrived for good in 1999, they first built this barn to house their goats. They then added Saanen and Nubian goats to the herd. The Saanens for their higher milk production, the Nubians for higher butterfat content. And with the larger herd in place, Gail saw an opportunity.
Well, if you're going to have more goats, then you have to have something to do with the milk.
And that's where this modern-day milking parlor comes into play. They had the milk, so why not make farmstead cheese? Gail hand-milked some of the goats. That liquid is placed in a small container which is later used to feed the baby goats, called kids. The rest of the milk is collected by automatic pumps to cool for up to 72 hours. When it's time to make cheese, Jim transfers the milk out of the tank into stainless steel containers that end up in the Tanner's cheese studio. The cheese studio machinery pasteurizes more than 40 gallons of goat milk at a time.
You're going to hog it all, huh?
Meantime, the Tanners handle the care and feeding of their herd. Gail often walks around with a yellow wagon in tow.
Are you guys ready?
She puts out alfalfa hay, fills up feed bowls with grain, bottle feeds the kids, checks on the bucks across the creek, and with whatever time is left over, tends to the chickens.
A friend that came and visited who really wants to get away from her desk job and be a farmer, she says, maybe you just trade in one set of stresses for another.
But one role that doesn't stress her out is that of cheesemaker extraordinaire. She's become pretty good at whipping up batches of now award-winning goat's milk, feta, and raw milk cheeses.
This is what we look for, the magic clean break, they call it.
Using her cheese knife, Gail separates the curd from the liquidy substance known as whey. It begins to take on a cottage cheese look.
It's time-consuming, and patience is a cheesemaker's best friend.
With the whey removed, the curds will drain overnight. These tubs will eventually be packaged as feta cheese. Bonnie Blue Farm turns out more than a half-dozen products. They've become a favorite at area farmers markets, but Jim's marketing efforts have also produced a demand in Memphis and other parts of Tennessee.
Or I go to to demonstrate the cheese to a chef, and I'm thinking of 2 or 3 of them. So this is the best feta I ever had. Yeah, we've got to have this on our menu. And I mean, those are direct quotes.
Gail says the good feedback is a result of the work and care they put into their farm, their milk, and their cheese.
The Tanners are always adding on to their property, most of the time in an effort to create a better product. And this right here is their latest project. It's called a cheese cave. Now, it's still in the process of being built, but they had to blast a hole in the side of this hill to construct it.
Custom-sized rocks are still being laid, and the 3 walk-in coolers have yet to be finished. Fresh air will be pumped in, keeping the temperature at a cool 55 degrees. A perfect place to age Bonnie Blue's hard cheeses.
The environment that those cheeses are aged in will make them even better. I mean, they're pretty good already, but having that will really set them apart.
The Tanners joke if the cave doesn't work out, they'll simply live in it. They're fine with a modest rural Tennessee lifestyle, one they can share with their good-natured goats.
That's why our trees are all trimmed up so nice.
And that's going to do it for this time. Thanks for traveling the country with us on this edition of America's Heartland.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Jason Schultz, and be sure to check out americasheartland.org for more story information and video streaming. We'll see you next time.
To order a copy of this broadcast, visit us online or call 1-888-814-3923. The cost is $14.95 plus shipping.
You can see it in the eyes of every woman and man in America's heartland, living close to the land. There's a love for the country and a pride in the brand in America's heartland, living close to the land.
America's Heartland is made possible by...
They make up a small part of our population, but have a huge impact on our lives. They take business risks few others would tolerate, all on our behalf. They're American farmers who feed, fuel, and clothe the world. Monsanto would like to recognize them for all they do for the rest of us. Because ultimately, our success and everyone else's depends on theirs.
And by the American Farm Bureau Federation, the voice of agriculture.